Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. You wanted to get a grasp on what's happening in the markets right now, especially with crypto constantly in the headlines.
Definitely lots to unpack.
Yeah, looks like someone out there did some serious number crunching, sent us some really interesting analysis from December 2nd, 2024.
Oh, wow. December 2nd. Okay.
Yeah, we're talking S&P 500, the US dollar, and of course a whole bunch of cryptos.
Of course. Got to have those.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, you name it. What we'll do today is we'll break it all down, figure out what the key takeaways are, get a sense of where things might be headed,
Sounds good.
and most importantly, what you should be paying attention to.
Absolutely.
But before we jump into the specifics, can you just give us a quick reminder about those support and resistance levels?
Oh, yeah, sure. No problem.
I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, so think of it like this. Imagine a price chart as a room, and the price is like a bouncy ball.
Oh, yeah.
Support is like the floor, and resistance is like the ceiling. So the price can bounce around between these levels as buyers and sellers kind of step in.
Oh,
So, for example, if a stock hits a strong support level, buyers might see it as a good deal and start buying it.
right.
Which would prevent the price from falling further.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So it's like a tug of war between the bulls and the bears,
Exactly.
pushing the price up or down. Speaking of which, what's the overall market sentiment right now? Is it leaning towards bullish, bearish, or somewhere in between?
It's a bit of the mixed bag right now. There's definitely some bullish sentiment, especially with the S&P 500 hitting an all-time high on December 2nd.
Yeah, this record high in the S&P 500 has me thinking, does this mean that investors are maybe overly optimistic? Could we be setting ourselves up for a correction?
Yeah.
Or is this a sign of genuine economic strength? What's your take?
Well, the S&P 500 is basically a snapshot of how 500 of the largest U.S. companies are performing.
Right.
And so it's often seen as like a barometer for the overall health of the U.S. stock market.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it's hitting record highs, it could suggest a lot of confidence in the economy.
Right.
However, it's worth remembering that markets tend to move in cycles.
Right.
And periods of strong growth are often followed by periods of correction.
So it's a bit of a proceed with cautious optimism situation.
Exactly. And this analysis highlights that 5,845 is a key support level for the S&P 500, while 6,000 represents a major resistance level.
Okay.
So if the index can break through that 6,000 ceiling convincingly, it could signal further upward momentum potentially towards 6,221 or even 6,500.
Wow.
But if it starts to struggle around that level, it might be a sign that the bulls are losing steam.
Okay, so the S&P 500 showing some strength, but we need to keep an eye on those key levels. Now let's shift gears and talk about the US dollar. What's happening with the DXY these days?
Well, the U.S. dollar index, or DXY, is basically a measuring stick for the value of the U.S. dollar compared to a basket of other major currencies.
Right.
And right now, it's stuck in a bit of a tug-of-war at that 108 resistance level.
Okay.
It's like it can't quite decide whether it wants to break higher or pull back.
So if the dollar weakens and someone is holding a lot of assets that are tied to the US dollar, that could have a ripple effect on their portfolio, right? It makes you think about diversifying.
Absolutely. A weaker dollar can impact everything from the price of imported goods to the returns on international investments.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, when the dollar weakens, assets like gold
Right.
and more recently Bitcoin tend to become more attractive.
That's the safe haven idea, right?
Exactly.
Like when things feel uncertain, investors flock to assets that are perceived as more stable.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for the DXY, we need to watch those support levels of 105.93 and 104.15 closely.
Mm-hmm.
If it drops below these levels, it could signal a shift towards a weaker dollar,
Okay.
which could have interesting implications for a lot of different asset classes, including cryptocurrencies.
Speaking of crypto, let's talk Bitcoin. It looks like it's making another run at that elusive $100,000 mark.
It certainly is.
Mm.
That $100,000 level has become a major psychological barrier for Bitcoin.
Mm.
Breaking through it would be a huge symbolic victory for crypto enthusiasts and could trigger a wave of new investment.
But this $100,000 mark for Bitcoin, is it really just psychological? Or are there fundamental factors at play that are driving this resistance?
Well, there are arguments on both sides. Some analysts believe that the $100,000 level represents a point where a lot of early investors who bought Bitcoin at much lower prices
Right.
might be tempted to take profits,
Oh, I see.
creating selling pressure.
Interesting.
Others argue that as Bitcoin gains more mainstream adoption, its value will inevitably rise, and $100,000 is just another stepping stone on that path.
So it's a combination of psychology and market dynamics and just the ongoing debate about Bitcoin's long-term value.
Yeah, pretty much.
This analysis emphasizes that $92,534 is a critical support level to watch. What happens if it drops below that?
If Bitcoin loses that support, It could signal a loss of momentum and potentially trigger a deeper correction.
Okay.
But if it manages to hold above that level, we could see a rally towards 113,331 or even $125,000.
Wow, those are some eye-popping numbers. But of course, Bitcoin isn't the only game in town. What about the rest of the crypto world?
You're right. There's a whole universe of altcoins out there, each with its own unique story and potential.
And you've got insights into quite a few of them in this analysis, any that are particularly noteworthy.
Well, Solana has been struggling lately. It's hovering near its support level of $210.
Oh, yeah.
And remember that network outage they had a few months back?
Yeah.
Some investors are still wary, and if it can't hold that support, things could get a bit dicey.
Ouch, not good news for Solana fans.
Yeah.
What else are you seeing?
On the flip side, you've got Dogecoin still riding that meme wave.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing how much social sentiment can drive these markets.
Yeah.
It's been moving within an upward channel, but it might hit resistance around 45 cents.
Okay.
However, if it manages to break through that, we could see it surge towards 59 cents.
So Dogecoin, the meme-powered wildcard. You never know what to expect.
Exactly. And then there's Cardano. It's trying to hold on to that $1.15 level.
Yeah.
If we see a strong rebound from there, it could potentially push it to 1.25.
Interesting.
But if it breaks through that resistance, we might even see a rally all the way up to 1.64.
Okay, so Cardano has some potential depending on what happens at those key levels. What other altcoins caught your eye?
Let's talk about Avalanche, or AVX. It's been making a strong move toward $51,
Okay.
which is a key resistance level. If it can break through that, we could see it climb to $60, but it's important to keep an eye on that $43 support zone in case of a pullback.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we've got Solana facing some challenges, Dogecoin riding the meme wave Cardano at a crossroads, and Avalanche making a strong move. It's a lot to keep track of.
It definitely is. And remember, this is just the technical analysis side of things. We've been focusing on price movements charts and those all-important support and resistance levels. But there's a whole other layer we need to consider.
You're talking about the fundamentals, right? Those external forces that can really shake things up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things like regulations, adoption rates, technological advancements, and even broader economic trends. The crypto market doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's connected to the real world.
Right.
And those connections can have a huge impact.
So even if the charts are painting a rosy picture, some unexpected news or a shift in regulations could change everything.
Absolutely. For example, if we saw a major crackdown on cryptocurrencies by regulators, it could trigger a significant market downturn, regardless of what the technical indicators might be suggesting.
Or on the flip side, if we saw more institutional investors jumping into crypto, that could create a surge in demand and drive prices higher.
Precisely. That's why it's so crucial to stay informed and consider the bigger picture. We'll dig more into these fundamentals in the next part of our deep dive.
Great, because I'm already feeling like I need a break to process all of this. We'll be back in a flash to explore the other side of the crypto coin, the fundamentals that can make or break these predictions. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Before we shift gears and really dive into those fundamentals, I think there are a few more altcoins from this analysis that deserve a closer look.
You know, I'm always up for exploring the altcoin universe. What else caught your eye?
Well, Binance Coin, or BNB, it's facing a bit of a pullback right now, around $677.
Okay.
That 20-day exponential moving average, which sits at $635, is going to be a crucial support level to watch.
Yeah.
If BNB can hold above that, the bulls might make another attempt to test that $687 mark.
Okay, so 635 is the line in the sand for BNB.
Right.
What if it dips below that?
Well, if it can't hold that support, we could see it slide further, maybe even down to the 50-day simple moving average, which is hovering around $609.
So BNB is at a bit of a crossroads. Now I'm curious about Ethereum. It's the second largest cryptocurrency after all. Didn't see any specific predictions for it in this analysis, though.
Yeah, it's interesting that this particular analysis didn't dive into specific price predictions for Ethereum. However, it's always worth keeping a close eye on, especially given its vital role in the decentralized finance ecosystem.
Absolutely. Ethereum is like the backbone of so many crypto projects. Okay. Any other altcoins you want to highlight before we move on to those fundamentals?
Yes, let's talk about XRP. It's been making some interesting moves lately. The analysis points out that it's currently trading within what's called a symmetrical triangle pattern.
I've heard of those, but I'll admit I'm not exactly a chart wizard. Can you break that down for me, and what does it mean for XRP?
Sure. So imagine two trend lines. one sloping downward and the other sloping upward, converging to form a triangle.
Okay.
That's your symmetrical triangle. The price is essentially bouncing between those trend lines, creating a period of what we call consolidation.
Okay, I can picture it now. So what's the significance of this pattern?
Well, a symmetrical triangle is usually a sign that a big price move is brewing, but it's hard to say for sure which direction it'll break out. Think of it like a coiled spring.
Oh,
The
okay.
longer the price stays within that triangle, the more energy is building up for a potential breakout.
So suspense is high for XRP. It could go either way. Kind of makes you want to grab some popcorn and watch what happens.
Exactly. And that's part of the allure of the crypto market. It's full of surprises and potential for big swings in both directions. But as we've been discussing, those technical patterns are just one piece of the puzzle.
Right. We can't forget about those other forces at play, the fundamentals. What are some of the key fundamental factors that you think could have the biggest impact on these crypto predictions?
Regulations are a big one. Governments around the world are still grappling with how to regulate cryptocurrencies. Any major policy changes could create a lot of volatility in the market.
It feels like there's a new headline about crypto regulations almost every day. It's definitely a space to watch closely. What else should we be paying attention to?
Adoption is another crucial factor. The more widely cryptocurrencies are used for everyday transactions, the higher their value is likely to climb. So things like the development of user-friendly wallets, the integration of crypto payments by major retailers, and the growth of decentralized finance platforms, or DeFi, are all important trends to monitor.
So it's not just about speculation and trading. It's about how crypto is actually being used in the real world.
Precisely. And let's not forget about technological advancements. The crypto space is constantly innovating with new blockchains, protocols, and applications emerging all the time. Some of these innovations could have a major impact on the future of the industry, while others might fade into obscurity.
It's like a fast-paced evolution with the fittest crypto projects surviving and thriving. What about the overall economic climate? How does that play into all of this?
Well, cryptocurrencies are often seen as a hedge against inflation. So if we see a period of high inflation or economic instability, it could drive more investors towards crypto as a way to preserve their wealth. On the other hand, if the economy is booming and traditional assets are performing well, interest in crypto might wane.
It sounds like understanding the crypto market is like trying to solve a multi-dimensional puzzle. You have to consider the technical factors, the fundamental factors, and how they all interact with each other.
That's a great way to put it. And to complicate matters even further, the crypto market is incredibly interconnected. What happens in one part of the market can have ripple effects throughout the entire ecosystem.
So a sudden surge in Bitcoin could lift the entire market, or a crash in one altcoin could trigger a broader sell-off.
Exactly. It's a complex and dynamic system, and it's impossible to predict the future with 100% certainty.
Which brings us back to that all-important question. What does this all mean for you, the listener?
I think the biggest takeaway is that knowledge is power. The more you understand about the crypto market, both the technical and fundamental aspects, the better equipped you'll be to navigate its complexities and make informed decisions.
You know, this conversation has really highlighted how important it is to do your own research and not just blindly follow the hype. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, but it's crucial to approach crypto with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. And it's not just about understanding the technology or the market trends. It's also about understanding your own risk tolerance and investment goals.
So true. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. What might be a great investment for one person could be completely wrong for another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have a well-defined investment strategy and to stick to it even when the market gets volatile.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but there's one more thing I want to touch on before we wrap up this deep dive. You mentioned earlier that the crypto market is constantly evolving. How can listeners stay ahead of the curve and continue to learn and adapt as the space changes so rapidly?
That's a great question. There are so many resources available these days, from online courses and podcasts to industry newsletters and social media groups. The key is to find sources that you trust and that provide accurate and unbiased information.
And probably to be wary of anyone promising guaranteed returns or get-rich-quick schemes, right?
Absolutely. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and stay informed.
And remember, the most valuable asset in this space isn't Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's knowledge.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you and your listeners.
The pleasure was all ours. And to all of you listening out there, thanks for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of crypto. Until next time.
It's amazing to think that all of this analysis we've been discussing, it's just a snapshot of the market from
Yeah.
December 2nd, 2024. Things can change so quickly in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, things are moving so fast.
So how can our listeners stay ahead of the curve and make sure they're not caught off guard by these rapid shifts?
Well, one of the most important things is to be adaptable.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to adjust your strategy as the market changes. If you're rigidly holding on to a plan that's no longer working, you could miss out on new opportunities or even worse, end up losing money.
Right. So flexibility is key. It's not just about making a plan. It's about being willing to revise that plan
Exactly.
as new information emerges.
Exactly. The crypto market rewards those who can adapt quickly and efficiently.
It's also important to diversify your portfolio. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. Spread your investments across different asset classes, including cryptocurrencies, to mitigate risk.
Absolutely.
Speaking of crypto specifically, any other tips for navigating this fast-paced world?
Don't get too caught up in the hype. Remember, there's a lot of noise in the crypto space with people constantly promoting the next big thing.
Right.
Do your own research, understand the risks involved, and don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Mm-hmm.
This market can be volatile, and it's important to be prepared for ups and downs.
And that brings us back to something we've emphasized throughout this whole deep dive. Knowledge is power.
Definitely.
If you're well-informed and understand the fundamentals, you'll be in a much better position to make smart decisions.
Couldn't agree more.
It's been fascinating diving into all of this with you today. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
The crypto world is full of opportunities and challenges. Approach it with a curious mind, a healthy dose of skepticism, and a commitment to continuous learning, and you'll be well on your way to navigating this exciting space successfully.
Well said. And for all of you listening out there, remember this deep dive is just a starting point.
That's right.
We've given you some key insights and things to think about, but now it's time to take that knowledge and keep exploring. Who knows, maybe you'll discover the next big thing in crypto. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.